Hi there, Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. So today we're going to have a look at another great debut album from a band that in the beginning were hated by the critics. In fact, one critic went as far as to say that if this band makes it, I'm committing suicide. Well, if he'd kept to his word, I guess he's not around anymore because Uriah Heep definitely did make it. So yeah, we're chatting about Uriah Heep's debut album, Very Heavy, Very Humble. Now, of course, Uriah Heep was a character in one of Charles Dickens's books, and one of his sayings was ever so humble. So their first album, Very Heavy, Very Humble. So just borrowed a bit from old Charles Dickens. A great album. Um, some amazing Hammond work from Ken Hensley on keyboards. Also did a lot of slide guitar, a bit of Moog, alongside Mick Box with his wah-wah pedal, which would become a trademark of his guitar style. And also some great singing from David Byron. And this was his introduction to the world. And geez, what a vocalist. Unfortunately not around anymore. Passed away in the 80s. But yeah, while he was around, he was really a great vocalist. The only problem with David Byron was he had very little self-confidence. He was always doubting himself, and I think that was one of his biggest downfalls, and hence his love of the bottle, which in the end got the better of him. So where was this? It was released on the 19th of June in the UK, and it was released in August in the US, so quite a while later. And it was recorded at Lansdowne Studios in London on the Vertigo label, a great label, which also had Black Sabbath, their debut album. Produced by Jerry Bron from Bronze Records. And another great band that would join Bronze Records later would be Motorhead. Quite a few of their first albums. The US had a different cover to the UK release. The UK release is the one that I think was the better one, with David Byron with this sort of cobweb stuff all around his face. Apparently it took forever to put on and forever to get off. But he was the guy that said, okay, I'll do it. And this is I don't know if you can see this very well, but this is the US version. It had that sort of strange centipede monster kind of thing, which for me was a bit cheesy. It didn't really do much. This is the actual cover which I really enjoy, is David Byron with all that cobweb type stuff around his face. That's a great cover. It has been re-released with a bonus disc. I don't have that. This one has got a few bonus tracks that I've got, and this was released in 1994, the one I have. So the original lineup, David Byron on lead vocals, as I said, an amazing singer. Ken Hensley on piano, organ, mellotron, and slide guitar, plus vocals. His vocals alongside David Byron's were great. They had a similar style, similar sound to their voices, but when they sang in harmony, it was amazing. Mick Box on lead and acoustic guitar and vocals. Of course, Mick Box is still with Uriah Heep. He's the only original guy left, still flying the flag. A gentleman by the name of Paul Newton on bass guitar and vocals. And Alex Napier and Nigel Olsen on drums. So there were two drummers used on this album on different tracks. And you can see that pretty much the whole band could sing. And that's something that Uriah Heep would carry on into their career. You had all these great vocal harmonies. Bands like Sweet borrowed from them, also the same kind of feel. And that's what set them apart from bands like Purple, who also had a lot of keyboard work. You know, Purple didn't have all those vocal harmonies, whereas Uriah Heep had that sound. Progressive in parts later on in their career, Uriah Heep. Then they would change, going to more commercial side, trying to crack the American market. But I reckon the first 6 albums are essential purchases. So let's get stuck into this debut album. The first track is Gypsy, which would become a huge hit for the band. A combination of heavy Hammond organ riffing alongside Mick Box on the guitar. Just one of the best riffs in rock. It's an iconic riff alongside Paranoid from Black Sabbath and Whole Lotta Love from Led Zeppelin. Amazing track. Just a good rocker to kick off an album. Then you had Walking in Your Shadow, sort of a mid-paced rocker. And Come Away Melinda is the next track, a really sad, sorrowful song with some incredible vocals from David Byron, all about a kid's loss of a parent, pretty much. I think that song has been covered by other people, but I think this version is the best, especially with David Byron at the top of his game. Then there's a blues track, Lucy Blues. Most bands from that era started out as blues bands, so they would always incorporate blues tracks within their albums, especially Led Zeppelin on the first album, which is pretty much a blues album. Then there's a track, Dream Mare, Real Turned On, which is a great rocker. Excuse me, always in the mornings. I have to wet my whistle. So Real Turned On, it's sort of a mid-pace rocker, but it's got such a groove to it. It's one of my favorite tracks, apart from Gypsy on the debut. I'll Keep On Trying is the next track, and Wake Up, Set Your Sights, which has got a few parts to it. It's got prog leanings, that particular track. But right throughout this album, Mick Box and Ken Hensley on guitar and keyboards respectively are at the top of their game, especially the wah-wah from Mick Box. That became his sound, really. He wasn't a flashy sort of Joe Satriani lead guitarist, but when he did that wah-wah pedal and those great riffs, it worked like a charm. Such a nice guy, very down-to-earth oak. I mean, I've seen them a few times live, and his rapport with an audience is amazing. He doesn't have any of the rock star personas. He doesn't put himself above people. He's very much a person of the people. He can chat to you like a friend, even though he doesn't know you at all. He's that kind of guy. This lineup, I think, only lasted for this album. And then Salisbury and Look at Yourself, there were a few lineup changes, especially amongst the in the drum department and perhaps in bass, until they settled on probably their best lineup when Gary Thane came in on bass and Lee Kerslake on drums. And then they released those great albums like Magician's Birthday and Demons and Wizards. But yeah, this as a debut album is probably my top 10 easily, maybe even my top 5. So like I said, this one has got some bonus tracks. This is the 1996 Castle Communications re-release. So you get Gypsy, a different version of Gypsy, Come Away Melinda, previously unreleased, and Born in a Trunk, previously unreleased track. Also very cool. See if there's anything I can show you inside here. It's pretty much the story of the album. See if there's any photographs I can show you. Oh, there's another shot of that American cover, which was not that great. And there's a picture of the guys, early shot of the band. Here's a great shot of them live. In those days, pretty basic. Your bass drum had a picture of the album cover and there was a backdrop. No lasers or things that would come later for rock bands. This was just all about the music, and then that's as it should be. You fell or you carried on by the strength of your music, and these guys were at the top of their game, although the critics hated them. But as I said, critics, who cares? There's the lyrics to the songs, and I think that's it. There's another small shot there, if you can see that, with their 60s garb on, with their frilly shirts and what have you. So yeah, Alex Napier was the other guy on drums, and he drummed on all the tracks except Dream Mare and Lucy Blues. And there was also a guy by the name of Colin Wood on keyboards on Melinda and Wake Up. And yeah, just a great debut album. And they were still finding their way, I think, in their first album. They would become a lot more cohesive as a band going forward. But this was a great one to start off with. There we go. Uriah Heep, very heavy, very humble. Still going today, still touring, still releasing great albums. Creative band. They don't just sit back and play the hits and rely on the hits to get the crowds in. When they release a new album, you can see that there's still a lot of creativity in the band. They've got excellent. I mean, Bernie Shaw's been the longest with them now as a vocalist. Excellent singer. I've seen him a few times live. And the whole band cooks. Russell Gilbrook, excellent drummer. And yeah, a band worth checking out. Hopefully when this whole COVID thing's over, they'll be back on the road, because they live on the road. I mean, they've traveled everywhere. Russia, they've come here to South Africa, one of the few classic rock bands that have come here, and I thank them for that. But they go everywhere. They have massive tours of the States, and they really are a band worth checking out. If you haven't got any Uriah Heep, Very Heavy, Very Humble is a great place to start. Next time round, we're going to check another band, another iconic debut album from a band that was a kind of a super group. They formed from the ashes of one band, and they got a few other guys in, and that'll be the Bad Company album, just called Bad Company. Have a great week, guys. Please, if you haven't, subscribe down below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy the video. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.